All right, which preview's next?
South Carolina.
South Carolina? 0-12. Have a great day. Well, South Carolina had a pretty typical year in 2020. They didn't win very many games. They were terrible, and they fired their coach. They bring in Shane Beamer now to try to turn things around in the third world country known as Columbia, South Carolina. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the 2021 Gamecocks, and I'm going to give you a game-by-game prediction. Let's go. Yeah, good morning to that, though, but it's Uncle Lou here, though. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou. I'm live for you on LouTube today. Hey, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also, and too. Hey, subscribe to this channel if you're not already. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year. Some of them are watchable, some aren't. You can decide about this one at the end. Let me know in the comments down below if you think I get the record right or wrong, and if I'm wrong, let me know which games it is you think South Carolina is going to win and lose. All right, Will Muschamp out, Shane Beamer in. Not his first rodeo in Columbia, South Carolina. Shane Beamer was actually the recruiting coordinator for Steve Spurrier from 2007 to 2010. Now, you may not think that matters, but if you remember, the best 3 or 4 year stretch in South Carolina history occurred from 2010 to 2013. They had 3 11-win seasons in a row. Pretty good years for South Carolina. Shane Beamer, as recruiting coordinator, had a big hand and was in a large part responsible for a lot of those players that came through South Carolina in the late 2000s and early 2010. Some of the most well-known South Carolina players of our lifetime, Jadeveon Clowney, so forth, so on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so South Carolina trying to rekindle that magic to bring Shane Beamer in, and the recruiting is really where it's going to have to start for South Carolina. They have really struggled recruiting. Will Muschamp was able to get some defensive talent there and a few guys here and there on offense, but overall, if you look at the talent level at South Carolina that Will Muschamp was bringing in, just doesn't stack up to the upper echelon teams in the SEC. So that's where it's going to have to start in Columbia for Shane Beamer. Offense, well, he's got some pieces to work with, and by some, I mean one, really. Running back Kevin Harris, the best player on the team, in my opinion, would start or play at almost any SEC school. This guy's legit. Didn't start last year, ended up starting by the time the season was over and went for over 1,000 yards in a shortened season against nothing but SEC opponents. He's the real deal. He's really, really good. Regardless of what you think about South Carolina, whether you hate him or love him, this guy, Kevin Harris, is the real deal, and he's really the only bright spot when you look at the offense. Now, there's some unknown potential offensively, but in terms of returning talent or starters on offense outside of Kevin Harris, there's not a lot to look forward to. When you look at the offensive line, they're pretty good, especially center, right guard, right tackle. The right guard and the right tackle started all games last year. Those 3 returned from last year. Got some work to do on the left side of the line. Quarterback, no starter named, and this is a big problem here. Doty was going to be the starter. Not that that was announced, but it was just widely assumed Doty was going to be the starter. Well, he's hurt. They're calling it a foot sprain. He was in a cast for a while. He's out of the cast now, but he's on a walking boot. So he's not really able to practice or fully participate in fall camp or to scrimmages. So for that reason, South Carolina and Frank Beamer have yet to name a starting QB. Now, here's the problem. He's an unknown. We really don't know how good he was going to be, but he was the best available option. After that, there ain't a whole lot. There's just not. You have this guy, Nolan. Nolan was a graduate assistant coach. He's only been on the team for 1 week, and he may end up starting in week 1. The other guy is a transfer from an FCS school, Brown, and then you got a true freshman, Colton Gaither, or whatever his name is. If Doty can't go week 1, it's going to be a disaster at the quarterback position for South Carolina, in my opinion. And there's no guarantee that even if Doty plays, that he's going to be legit. It's just that he was the best hope. This is a bad situation at quarterback for South Carolina. You look at the wide receivers. Okay, tight end Nick Muse, he came back. I'm not sure why, but he did. He may could have gone to the NFL, but he came back. Wide receivers, not a single standout. Last year, you had Shi Smith and then 3 or 4 receivers that nobody could name. This year, you got no Shi Smith and those same 3 or 4 receivers that nobody can name. You bring in a transfer. He came with the kid from the FCS school. He came with Brown. They were teammates. He's 6'7". EJ Jenkins is his name. Great. He's really tall, and he did okay in the FCS. We'll see how he does against press man coverage with future NFL DBs lined up across from him every week in the SEC. But the offense is just not looking good for South Carolina. You can say I'm just talking trash if you want, but this is just the reality of the situation. Now, over on the defense, bright spot there, defensive line. Talented and deep. South Carolina's got 5 or 6 guys they can rotate in across that defensive front. As bad as MUSCHAMP was overall at South Carolina, he did recruit pretty well along the defensive line. New defensive coordinator Clayton White's going to try to take advantage of that, plus some experience you have in the secondary by running a 4-2-5 defense. This isn't something you see very often in the SEC, at least not as a base defense. This is basically nickel all the time. 4 down front, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. Now, teams run a lot of nickel because we're throwing the ball a lot now in college football. But in terms of a base defense, running a 4-2-5, you don't see that very often. One of the reasons they're doing that, no linebackers. South Carolina, it has got a serious talent void, not even a gap. It's just a void at linebacker. You've got 4 defensive backs coming back this year who played last year but were all injured at some point during the season. But you lost 5 defensive backs to either the NFL or the transfer portal. The defense is going to be bad outside of that defensive line. All right, let's put the schedule up on the screen and see if South Carolina can avoid going 0-12. Week 1, you start off at home against Eastern Illinois, and guess what? Uncle Lou's going to give you a giant W. That's right, South Carolina is undefeated after Week 1 with a huge win over Eastern Illinois. Week 2, on the road at East Carolina, on the road, tough road game against a terrible opponent. You're going to win that one too. South Carolina 2-0, off to an amazing start. East Carolina, they've had some good years. That was a long time ago. They haven't even made a bowl game since 2015. Let me tell you this. If for any reason South Carolina's not 2-0 after these first 2 games, they should be removed from the SEC. These are 2 terrible teams that have no business beating even the worst team in the SEC in any given year. I fully expect South Carolina to pull their weight and start the season off 2-0. Now, week 3, totally different story. Jack, yep, that's right. You play on the road at UGA. Type all you want about 2019. That was an anomaly. Thinking South Carolina is going to beat Georgia in 2021 because they beat them in 2019 in Athens is like winning $1 billion in the lottery today and then thinking that means you're going to win $1 billion in the lottery again tomorrow. This is why 99% of all lottery winners go broke. They're dumber than the average South Carolina fan. You're going to take a giant L on the road in Athens to Georgia. You're 2-1. Kentucky, another L. I'm not as high on Kentucky as most other people seem to be. I still don't buy into Kentucky's offense, particularly the ability to throw the ball. I'm going to have to be proven wrong before I come around to that. But I think they're going to beat you. You're 2-2. Then you play Troy. I'm going to give you a win here, and I'm going to tell you of the 3 non-con games we've looked at so far, Eastern Illinois, East Carolina, and now Troy, I think this is the most difficult test, but I'm going to give you a win somehow, whether it be by the grace of God or some other make-believe reason. You're 3-2. On the road at Tennessee, loss. I know they got a new coach, but he's got experience at least being a head coach, and regardless of how bad Tennessee is or how bad you think they are, they're a little bit more talented than South Carolina, and you have to play them there. Probably Tennessee's biggest win of the season there at home. They're going to beat you. Then you get Vandy. They're the worst team in the SEC. Yes, even worse than you. You will beat Vandy. An SEC win. Miraculous. On the road at Texas A&M, loss. You play Texas A&M every single year. They're your cross-division rival from the SEC West. That means you play them every year. You've never beat them. They've been in the SEC 8, 9, 10 years, whatever it is. They whip you every year. It's going to happen again this year. They're a legitimate top 10 team, and on top of that, you got to play there. Then you get your bye week. Too little, too late. Doesn't matter. You'd be lucky to get a tie there. Week 10, Florida, loss. Florida's going to take a step back. They lose almost their entire offense, but they've got a head coach who's got way more experience than anything called Frank Beamer or Shane Beamer, whatever the hell it is. It doesn't even matter, really. Anyway, Florida's beating you. You got to play them there. On the road at Mizzou. I think Mizzou's the second best team in the East. Therefore, they're not losing to you. You're going to lose on the road in the other Columbia, the better Columbia, by the way, Columbia, Missouri. You close things out with 2 home losses, the first one against Auburn and the first one against your step-uncle, the Clemson Tater. There it is. South Carolina goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 4-8. Now listen, most people I talked to all offseason been telling me the Gamecocks going 3-9. So I don't want to hear no hate from the Gamecocks here. I'm giving you one more win than the average idiot is giving you. South Carolina 4-8 in 2021. Have a great day.